Assalamu alaikum salah. Just before we begin, if you support the Young Smirks podcast and you want to help support the channel, please go to the Patreon below and support us monthly so we can keep up with the shows. We've got lots of content coming up. We're going to have special content specifically for the Patreons, as well as a new series on Hijrah, inshallah. So please go to the Patreon below and support the podcast. Assalamu alaikum salah.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum salah. Welcome to the Young Smirks podcast, and with a special guest, Moosa. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Walaikum salam to Allah. What's happening?
What's going on?
Alhamdulillah, we're good.
Alhamdulillah. My first time in Resole.
Alhamdulillah.
I've been watching your work online, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Today, finally, we get to do. We did a podcast, me, you, and Abu Bakr, many years ago.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Do you remember?
I remember that. I had something to do with Snoop as well. I can't remember where it was.
I met Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
And we just used it as an opportunity just to try
to give Dawa in it.
So, subhanAllah, we're here many years on, and we're in Brixton.
Alhamdulillah.
This is not your ends, is it?
Nah, it's a long way from home. Once upon a time,
It's not that far, but it's far.
Yeah, it felt like a long way because I remember when we grew up going central London. It was like, I'm going off ends, and you're just going to central London, which is like 10-15 minutes away. So it's always like that.
Yeah, subhanAllah. So alhamdulillah, I've been looking at your work, watching your work, mashallah. You're doing a lot in the community. We're going to get to that. But first, I just want to speak a bit about your story and where you come from. You know, where you come from, how you found Islam, and, you know, some of the projects you've been up to as well, things you've been doing. So, you was originally born in Uganda?
Born in Uganda. Born in Uganda to Ugandan parents. Father was a accountant. You know, he studied accountancy in Uganda, graduated there, and then found work overseas. And as you do, travelled on his own first and then called for his family after. So that's how we basically got here to the UK.
As you know, I was living in Uganda for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And beautiful.
Uganda is home. It took me 25 years to go back, imagine that.
Alhamdulillah. You know, it's a beautiful country. Many people don't know about Uganda. They just hear, they think about, you know, the past, there's some of the history there.
100%.
And there's a lot of propaganda against Uganda before. Against the Idi Amin and stuff like that, but it's a beautiful country and the people are very welcoming, very friendly people, mashallah.
Uganda's nice, man.
So you recently went back, you said after 25 years.
Yeah, after 25 years, long 25 years.
So how was that, going back?
That was great, you know, it was like, mixed emotions, went back for a project, but then also there was a lot of expectations because a lot of people that had seen me before and I was like, 10 years old. And then I came back at, 35 and it was just totally different. And it was like, I was a man, you know what I'm saying? So I was dealing with family members and, Uganda, they're very respectful to men and the elders. So you have, I had my grandma and my aunts kneeling and I was like, no, get up, don't do that. They're like, no, you're the man of the house. So you're like, you're from the elders now. We have to do this. And I'm like, no, don't do that, please, you're embarrassing me, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, that was strange to see. And then also just embracing the fact that, that I also had a journey and a lot of things that I've experienced through the dunya that I could share with them. And I think whenever I spoke, they listened intensively and they kind of took to what I had to say. They didn't, I didn't feel like that young person. So it was totally different.
You know, a lot of people have misconceptions, like people in Uganda think England's like a certain way. And people in England think Africa's like a certain way.
100%.
And you don't, unless you travel and get more worldly, you don't really realise the reality of the situation. But you growing up in England, they probably never imagined, your family back in Uganda never imagined the type of life you had growing up. Yeah,
of course, man. A lot of the time, like you said, people look at England a certain type of way. They look at it like tea and biscuits. That's the best way to put it. Everything's simple, everything's nice, everything's calm. Not understanding the urban cities, the inner cities, what we like to call, some people will say they're not ghettos, but to us, this is what we know because they're council estates, tower blocks, grey buildings, gangs, guns, like crime, drugs, everything's on the estate. You know, like people that you're afraid of live like 5-10 minutes away from you. Your parents don't even understand that the people that you're having real issues with are the kids that you went to school with, and now you're grown and they're still thinking like, how's little Dave over there? And you're like, if you only knew. You know what I'm saying? So,
subhanallah, you know, a lot of people, if they've never been in your situation, they can never imagine it.
No.
You know, even me, you know, growing up in Manchester, as you know, I came down to London when I was 18, to Peckham.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew the streets, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up here in Moss Side.
Yeah.
But even Moss Side, compared to Peckham,
It's different.
it's a different world.
Different world.
I thought Moss Side was bad.
Yeah, it's different.
But staying in Peckham is a different world.
Yeah, South London's crazy as a whole, and I feel like compared to the rest of London and in different parts, I see that sometimes when you go up north in the Midlands and further up, there's always like two main areas, this or that.
Yeah.
But when you come to London, within just one area, there's like 4 or 5 sections that are just crazy. Then you get to East London's the same, North, and it's just crazy in London. And I just feel like I think it's just that city vibe. And I think as we've grown and we've visited lots of different countries, we've always found the city to be crazy. The main capital, I should say.
Yeah. So growing up, you grew up in Peckham. You were getting into all sorts of madness when you were young, and you was also involved in music. So tell us a bit about that.
So my time growing up, basically, I grew up on Wharf Road. And Wharf Road is a fraction or a section of Peckham to an extent. You know what I'm saying? So if you lived on Wharf Road, you were either, depending on the part of Wharf Road, because Wharf Road is split in where half of it is closer to Brixton, like Kennet and them areas, and then the other part is closer to like Camberwell and then Brixton. So Camberwell and Peckham, one of our main areas in Wharf Road is Aylesbury Estate. And there's only a park between Aylesbury and Peckham, because on the other side of the park is North Peckham, and then the other side of the park is Aylesbury Estate, which is Wharf Road. So I was always like Wharf Road but Peckham inclined. I went to school in Peckham in St. Thomas the Apostles. So growing up, it was just mad. Like, it was, like when I look back at it sometimes, I think, was I dreaming or something? It's like you had lives within lives. Like my first 10 years was just going to primary school, playing football, and then dad dying about the age of 10, 11. I had another 10 years between 10, 11 to 21 when I embraced Islam at 21, 22. But those 2 10-year breakdowns that I have from 10 years old, my first 10 years of life, my second 20 years of life, which was just fast paced, and then my last 20 years of life till I got to my 30s was when I started to find myself, who I was, what I was going through. But those middle 10, between 10 and 20, it was mad, going into secondary school and then realising that there was crazier kids than me. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was bad. I was like, I'm not that bad. Like, so it's like, I just think, Mum, you got to be a bit easy on me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's kids that's coming into school, they're throwing stuff at the teachers, they're throwing desk overs. Like, you know, those kids just can't be dealt with. They're always in seclusion, in their own classes. And when you see that, you think to yourself, right, I'm not that bad. But then them kids incline towards you and being your friend, and then they become your friends. And then, you know, because them kids as well, that you always have things in common, whether it's sport, football, so you end up playing football with them, then talking, then you're like, yeah, I'm from Wharf Road, and they mention certain older boys from your area that are known for beating people up or being good fighters, whatever, then you start to brag about that. And then before you know it, you become those kids, you become those older boys, you start to roll in groups that then form into gangs. And by the time you're like year 9 and you're like 13, 14 years old and you want Air Max 95s and 110s and your parents can't afford it, you start selling weed.
You need to find money.
You need to find money. I think one of the first money things that we did to find money, we used to go on the underground, and I think in phone boxes. Kids these days will not even know what phone boxes are.
You know what? I just seen 2 phone boxes in Brixton. I said to my friend, I've not seen phone boxes for years.
The kids won't
There's
even
2
know.
phone boxes here in Brixton.
They're just there. I'm saying kids won't know what that is. That used to be the only way. There used to be a reverse call where you can, something, and then you can ask them for the other person to pay it. Yeah, if they accept it. So like we used to do a thing where you put like a 2p coin underneath the slot and it jams it, so your change don't come back out. And at the end of the day, we come with a little card and there'll be about £10 in there. We'll go and buy chips and food, and that was the first way to like, well, we can make money. You know what I'm saying? And again, it was a petty crime, but it was still a crime that led on to other stuff. And before you know it, like I said, you're doing robberies, robbing other kids for taking their bikes and selling them and doing silly stuff, you know what I'm saying, where you thought it was little. But that's traumatic experience, man, being a young kid getting robbed by a group of kids. You know what I'm trying to say?
It's not a joke.
No.
You know, it's hard to explain to someone who's not really... It sounds petty, but it's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
You know, people don't realise how dangerous UK is.
Because
it's even more dangerous now.
Because in that group, like you remember when you were rolling with the man then, even though you might not have been one to pull a knife out or to bring something with you, but in your group there was always that's I said, the kid that can't be controlled, and he'll bring the knife out, and you'll be like, "What are you doing? Put that away! It's too late. He's brought it out." Now he's just intimidated that kid that you could have took the bike off him without having to pull the knife out, and add that level of trauma that I've been robbed for my bike at knife point, where it would have just been some kids took the bike off me, but that crazy kid does that. And if you allow that kid to carry on being crazy without being checked, he's the first one to stab someone and get everyone in trouble. So it's mad, it's mad, it's mad.
You know, I remember many years ago, you remember, because we were speaking many years ago, and I was speaking about an incident that happened in Ministry of Sound.
Yeah, Ministry, I remember, It was just madness.
Basically, I remember I was with some of the Peckham guys. And, you know, something happened. And it was like, I think Brixton boys were there and things like that. And all of a sudden, you guys came to save us, man.
I remember, because we used to get the phone calls.
Next thing, there was just loads of the Peckham boys outside to back us up.
Because a lot of the time, I remember there used to be a section of guys that were solid, but they also loved to dress up, look sharp and party. And not all of us were like that. But there was always, especially those guys that you roll with, they're
the ones that get caught slipping in the club.
They're the ones that get caught slipping in the club. Because they like to go and we're like, you sure you want to go there? Because people turn up there and you're like, nah, they're going out.
Because Elephant in Castle is like in the middle of everywhere, right?
It is.
It's not in one...
It's not.
It's kind of...
Because from the junction, it goes straight up Kenneton, you're at Brixton. You go straight up Old Kent Road, you end up in New Cross, which is ghetto. You go down Wharf Road, it's Peckham. It's madness.
I remember that clearly. And then it's funny that many years later, we're speaking in my house, talking about it, and then you're like, I remember that. And then they...
I remember.
Well, you know, so you grew up in Peckham. How did you find Islam in the UK?
I think...
Because there is a lot of Muslims in Uganda.
Yeah.
There's like 18 million Muslims.
Yeah. Do you know what? When it comes to Islam, there was always Muslims in my family. And there was always like, my uncle was Muslim, my mum's brother. My cousins were Muslim. But it was still a strange concept to me. Because when I used to spend time at my cousin's house, Nasir, I remember on the weekends they'll have someone come round and they're just reading Arabic and they have to pray in a prayer mat. But they used to hate it. And they used to just laugh and crack jokes, and the sheikh would always be upset with them. I remember they used to say, oh, he beats us a lot every time he comes, he's forcing us to learn. But I never really understood what they were doing. I just thought it's another religion, it is what it is. I never really gave it any thought, you know what I'm trying to say? So it was crazy. But when I look back now, and I can start to recognize the Muslims within my family and those who were from a long time ago. Now they're looking at me like, oh yeah, what, you finally convert? But they wasn't proud Muslims. I don't remember anyone who actually was a practicing Muslim. The only uncle who I have who is in America is an imam. He studied in Syria. He's an imam of one of the masjids in America. I chat to him now. But he started practicing when he moved to America, and I was very young, and I hadn't seen him for a long time, but I used to hear about him. But so for me, Islam was, Abu Bakr embraced Islam before me. He was one of the men, and we used to go raving all the time, ministry, all that stuff. And Abu Bakr embraced Islam, and he used to see me and give me Dawa and be like, oh, come on, man. Yeah, come off this road thing, it's long. And he says it to me all the time. Do you remember I used to come outside your mum's house? I remember I said, I thought you was nuts, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I was thinking about money. I was rapping them times. I'd already started rapping. OTB was doing well. Spare No One was doing well. We had a lot of mixtapes coming out. People started to recognize us for our music. Like, you know, we were blowing up gigs and Kais and everyone were blowing up.
They were the Peckham anthems, man.
Yeah, they were anthems sometimes there. And then, like, we were blowing up on Willie Roll. We were doing a lot of collaborations. And then I got this guy telling me to leave all that behind. And I was like, come on, bruv, allow it. You know what I'm saying? And I was making money. I was comfortable. But it was only when I went to prison for an offensive weapon, I think this was the second or third time I went to prison. And it was like, and previous to that, my mum had a Quran in the house that she got from her cousin, and she wanted to dispose of it, but she didn't know what to. So she said, "Do you want it?" Because at that time there, she knew my friends was giving me Dawa, and I wasn't really practicing any type of religion like that. So I just took it for whatever reason. Do
you think your mum wanted you to find a faith? Maybe.
My mum wanted me off the roads, so she asked. My mum had Tawheed but didn't have faith, but she had Tawheed in that she believed in one God. And she would call on one God. But she wasn't Christian really, she wasn't practicing, she wasn't doing anything. And my mum had a little stint as a Muslim when she was younger, but due to whatever reason it didn't go ahead. Maybe it was her brothers that influenced her or whatever, but she kind of left it to, she didn't have anything that took her to that next level. So she just lived her Christian lifestyle and how she was raised. But she knew enough to know that you can't just throw the Quran anyway. So she thought, I'll give it to my son, maybe he can benefit from it. And I remember I think I opened it up once and it was about, do you think that you were created for like just mere fun and play? You know what I'm saying? And I think that there, because I was always a person like, why are we created? I know this can't be no joke. This ain't no. So when I saw that I was being questioned in the Quran, when I saw that, the first page I went to was questioning me that. I was like, right, that's deep. But once you close that book, the dunya is 100 miles an hour. So that just left me. But I remember it hit me at that moment, like, that moment, it slowed everything down.
You remember that moment?
Yeah, that moment is memorable because everything slowed down and I was like, rah. Then it was like, gone again. Do you know what I'm saying? But then within that, life kind of took a toll. I ended up in prison, and I ended up in prison in Ramadan. It was Ramadan, so it was mad. Everyone was fasting, everyone's on deen. I was in prison with two Asian brothers, Hassan and Hussein, and because I was in there, it was like, I started to remember Abu Bakr's Dawa, I started to remember the Quran my mum gave me, and they just said, listen bro, Ramadan's kicking in 2 days, we're going to start fasting, we're not going to be smoking in here or doing anything like that. And before that, they were reckless in this, they're always burn and all of that stuff. So when I saw that they were ready to switch it up, I was like, okay. I never had an encounter with fasting. So they started to fast, and them times there, they knew me from rapping. They were like, yeah, man, know your tune Closer. I saw you on the MTV bass. Right, that's you. What's going on? They started telling my man, oh, my man's is in it. So it kind of spread on the wing. And I didn't really want it because at the same time, I didn't know who was in jail at the time. Did I have the ops from the other side? What's going on? So I was just laying low, minding my own business, trying to come out. I was only going to do 8 months and come out. So I was thinking, let me just do my quick time. Less than a year, I'll be out of here. So,
see, a lot of people claim to be doing music, but your music was successful at that time.
Yeah, it was successful at that time.
You was in a...
We're from that early generation. Like when you look back at American music and you look at people who didn't get the success that they see rappers getting now, but they were from the foundations like Big L and them type of rappers, you know what I'm saying, where they were known in that era for doing what they done, but now music has gone to a whole different level, do you know what I'm trying to say? So we were in that space, making that stuff work, and then for us, it was like, it was just crazy. So when you went into prison and it was just at that time where Closer, we were paying mad money for music videos and it was doing its numbers while I was in prison. I remember one of the guys said to me, oh yeah, if your friends have been talking, because I told them about the encounters I was having with Islam and that I thought about it still, but I didn't really take it too serious. And they were like, listen bro, man, you should become Muslim, man, and fast with us. And I was like, nah, it's long, I'm not ready for all that yet. And I remember one of the brothers said, nah man, listen, just try it. And I was making all the excuses not to become Muslim until Allah sent him some type of hidayah and hikmah that he for himself, he couldn't have possessed it, but it was for that moment. It was for the shahada to take place, you know what I'm saying? Because when I look at the hikmah that he came from, he wasn't that type of guy. But when Allah wants you to come to Islam, it's a wrap. And Allah, knowing me as the one that created me, knows what inclines to me. So he said to me, bro, if I offered you food on a plate, would you taste it at least? And I'll say, yeah, because you keep on saying no to everything. They saying, would you just say no to me, or would you taste it, and then if you didn't like it, you would stop eating? I said, yeah, that's what I'll do. He goes, do the same with Islam. Become Muslim. If you don't like it, just leave it, bro.
Yeah, nothing stopping.
And that was just simple. It is. There's nothing stopping you. He goes, what's stopping you from becoming Muslim, tasting it? If you don't like it, leave it. And then I was caught then. I was banged to rights. I was like, it's true. Like, if I become Muslim while I'm in here, do this fasting thing, if it's dead, isn't it? I just leave it. But he knew once I tasted that sweetness of it, man, it's a wrap. So as soon as he said that, I said, cool, no problem. Look, let's go. What do I do? He said, yeah, repeat after me. Said the Shahada. Bang, that was it. Started reading Quran while I was in there. Went into the masjid while I was in there. That was that period when someone sends you salam, you send the same salam back because you don't know what you're doing. That was the period when they say salam alaikum. I'll be like, salam alaikum. The brother's like, nah, akis wa alaikum salam. You know, like everyone loves to be a teacher as well. You're in that environment like, oh yeah, the brother took shahada. So I was in there. But for me, being who I am and how I am as an individual, whenever I do something, I do it properly. I don't really like doing 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So for me, the reason I wasn't really prepared for it, because I knew that when I accept Islam, it's not going to be 50-50. I'm going to go full steam ahead. So I'm thinking about the man them on the outside. We got beef with certain man from Brixton who are all on this Islam thing. The man them going to think that I've joined this set and I'm moving dodgy because I'm in prison. A load of things were going in my head. But after I took Shahada and I practiced for a bit in prison, my heart was gone. It was gone to the deen. There was no turning back. There wasn't like, yeah, I can leave this when I come out, it's dead. No, like I was fully, embraced into what I took.
Because there was a whole wave of people accepting Islam in Brixton, weren't there?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people.
A lot.
Well, it wasn't the same in Peckham, not as many.
No, it wasn't at all.
Yeah.
And we had beef with them man there from Brixton. I remember being in the studio watching Streets Incarcerated and Muslim Bilal and all of that were in Egypt on horses, riding like round the pyramid, speaking Arabic. And we were all in there thinking, these lot think they're bad. They're bad. Anyway, like we had like enough, you know what I'm saying? We were like, you think you can scare us because you're out there speaking foreign languages? Because we were doing this rap thing. We was like, what are they doing? Like bringing religion into music and all that, whatever. So we were proper anti, not even just Islam, but anti bringing religion into it. Because we were thinking, we're Christians, we don't talk about it all the time. Why are you not talking about being Muslim all the time? That type of thing, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of difficult to tell the man them that I embraced. I remember when I told Gigs when I came out, it was like, all right, cool, whatever, just come and do the tune, innit? Your verse is waiting for you. It ain't really business. And I was like, all right, cool. Then I just got caught slipping for about a year. I remember going to the studio. I remember going to lessons with Abu Bakr and Tooting.
Yeah.
And then leaving straight after the lesson, running into the studio and doing music videos with Gigs and that. And I got like my phobe on and I got my jacket on top. And I'm like, don't film the bottom half, just keep me like that. And I was just lost, and I'm in the studio doing choruses and.
I had a track with Sway. You know the Sway the Safo, the Ghanaian rapper. He was pretty big back in the day.
He was big. We have to give him his props.
I had a track with him, but I was Muslim at the time. I just became a Muslim, and the track was Everyday Valentine. It was about Valentine's Day.
I remember that.
And he put me on, and it was on the Doneo LP.
Okay.
The Pop Your Bottle LP. He was on this. And I'd become a Muslim, and I filmed it. We recorded it. And then, I had a change of heart. Like, I don't want to do music no more. But everything's out there, right? Videos out there, content out, it's on iTunes, this, that, and the other. But alhamdulillah, it took me some time, but I managed to actually get most of it off. Okay. If not all of it. Yeah, even Sway actually removed it, as far as I know.
I haven't even had a chance to even get that deep because I still get sent things now, like from people. They'll just say like, I'll get tagged on something on Instagram from like old school, and they're talking about who were the hardest rappers to come out of South London, and I'm in the lineup, and people just tagging me, and I'm just like, oh my Lord, it's just mad, it's mad.
No, I mean, it was big. I mean, for people who know that music, like definitely Gigs, obviously. Yeah. It was a big thing.
No, it was big, man. A lot of people that we grew up with, whether it's like Fresh, there was a lot of people now who are prominent, whether they're managers managing some of the biggest talent and stuff like that. So for me, it's always like mixed emotions because like I'm real enough to know that my friends that I grew up with and the circumstances that we were put in these inner city estates that didn't give us a good prospect of life, that the fact you can go from living an illegal lifestyle to living a legal lifestyle and buying your mum a house and paying taxmen and having accountants and doing everything above the law where you're appreciated and respected, that's a big deal from where we came from. The problem we had is that what we were doing for a living then became against our religion, our way of life. And sometimes it's not just music, it can be many things that are against Islam and how to earn your money. You could have had one of the most successful alcohol companies and selling different type of whatever, and then you embrace Islam and you're thinking, but it's legal where I live, but now it's illegal in my way of life. And that's the difficult. So I'm never too quick to jump on artists who have come from a certain lifestyle, who are Muslim and are finding it hard to understand the difference between what's legal in the land and what's illegal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I feel like we come from a space where we just want to leave what's illegal in the land because we don't want to get arrested, we don't want police coming to our parents' house, we don't want to end up in jail and miss our children growing up. So we leave all of that behind and then we take up what we think is our only option: music, sport, film, TV, television, entertainment, for an example. And then all of a sudden, it's not easy.
You know, I was singing and I was getting paid and I actually went to a sheikh once. I said, you know, basically I'm a singer. I was singing casinos, cruise ships, sang at United's ground.
Getting it in, yeah?
You know, sometimes I was making like, the most I ever made is only about £7,500 for like 1 hour.
That's big money.
It's a lot of money.
It's big money.
Just for jazz singing, you know, I was singing jazz stuff. And singing in Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club and stuff like that in Soho. Things like that. But then I went to a sheikh after some time and I'm asking him, I said, you know, I'm a singer. And he's like, yeah, it's all right. But me, deep down, I knew it was wrong. And it wasn't necessarily just the music. It's the fact that I'm in a casino with alcohol and women. And
that's the last thing you want to tell people like that. So I always praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thank him. And I'm so grateful that when I embraced Islam, I didn't have people around me who said music was alright, because that environment wouldn't have allowed me to be where I am today. Just forget the music on its own, the environment. Like, these are my mandem. Like, a lot of the mandem in that space who have passed away, who are in prison doing big life sentences, are because of that environment. So there's nothing to say that someone wouldn't have done something to someone that I love in that space and I would have acted out of character and done something crazy. So I just feel like I'm just so grateful that I had people around me who were just telling me, as hard it was to swallow, that music's haram, music's haram. I feel like this generation are very like they just mollycoddled and we make things easy for them, and someone who's a musician takes shahada and we praise them and post them all online, like, oh, this person just... So it's just like...
So that first Ramadan, you fasted in prison. Was that it? You decided, right, you know what, I'm going to stay.
That was it, because...
You tasted the Ramadan?
Yeah, I tasted it, I loved it. And also, Abu Bakr was Muslim, grew up together, so I knew I had to tell him the news, but I didn't tell him straight away. And then my brethren Abdul Malik, he's my code, he's like my right hand. And the brother Fahim that worked on Resole with me, he's another one, grew up together, mashallah. So they were Muslim as well before me. So when I come out, Jibril from Peckham, he's Muslim. There was a few people that I knew, but we didn't have relationships, but prison allowed me to know the brotherhood, so I knew we were brothers straight. But I remember I think Buck called me and I was like, yeah, I'm Muslim. He said, Rod, you know that Mantis, like Abdul Malik, is Muslim as well now? I was like, is it? Hanged up straight, bang. Called him up, yeah, you Muslim? Yeah, sorry, I can want you out. Like, we were gassed. Like, yeah, and then like, it's because to feel like, rah, someone else has had enough of the dunya and has seen Islam, because Abdul Malik was the last person I thought would have got religious. But to know that our brains were on that same wavelength, understanding that there's a higher power, there's more to life than what we're doing now. Yeah, knowing that just by you telling me you are Muslim, I knew that you knew that. We didn't even have to explain it. It's just that, okay, cool, we're on the same wavelength. We need to leave this alone. So as soon as we're out together and we're with a man then, if we're still smoking, we'll look at each other like, nah, we gotta leave these men. You know, like you got someone say, yeah, like when he sees me with them, we gotta leave them. When I see them, when I see him out with them, I'm like, we gotta leave. So we're just back. The next minute, Abdul Malik's in Egypt, gone, disappeared, got married, is in Egypt with his missus. I'm like, what, married? Man's getting married. I said, what? Let's rewind that. Married? Yeah. We're just 20 years old. What's all this about man's getting married? Now Abdul Malik got married, he's gone with his wife, he's in Egypt. I said, okay, say no more. Is this what's going on now? So now I start to process even more that, you got to start a family, you can't do the boyfriend-girlfriend thing.
Well, you know, deep. people, subhanAllah, if they knew the reality, and then people actually getting married at 20 years old,
it's massive.
And what they were doing the week before.
Yeah, it's massive.
It's crazy.
It's massive, like.
And that's how Islam just changes people.
Of course.
You know, for me, it's interesting. It's Peckham. It has two sides. You got the roadmen. Yeah. And you got the African. Yeah. Guys who are doing their thing. Yeah, they're different, but they were road, but they understood the advantage that their parents got to bring them here. Yeah. So they were like. They're making their money in different ways. Yeah. And as you know, I knew a lot of them guys, Yusuf and
North Peckham and them.
And they were like, a lot of them were actually Muslim. Like Yusuf, Muslim. Yeah, Yusuf. They didn't know much about Islam, but when Ramadan comes, the thawbs are on, they're in the masjid, and that's how I found Islam. Okay. When I came to Peckham, obviously I'm with the Sierra Leoneans and Nigerians, and these are like you're African, but you're more UK African. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't know where you're from. But these are African. Like they're African.
There's no doubt.
And I was with them guys, and it's slowly just, I remember just hearing the adhan, and that's when I went to Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ghana, when I was 18 years old. Up to no good, getting in trouble. Mad. And, hearing the adhan, seeing Muslims, like, I never knew they were, like, African Muslims. Like, when I went to Africa, because I always thought it was, like, a Pakistani thing.
Asian thing.
So, just having that kind of connection there. And then, but it's interesting how Peckham can just, the light of Islam can penetrate deep. Into these areas in different ways. You found it one way. I found it a different way for a totally different route. Going to Africa, hearing the adhan, seeing Muslims. But it's a mercy from Allah, bro.
100%, man. 100%.
Because where would we be today without Islam?
Yeah, no. I'd say without Islam, it's a myth. A lot of things don't happen. A lot of opportunity. Even the way we see life today. I always say, like I said before, man. Without Islam. And without also the path that we've chosen to trod by Allah's permission, I don't know where we'll be. It's madness.
And I'm very proud of the brothers like yourself, Abu Bakr, even Muslim Bilal, like you say, other brothers who maybe not as well known on YouTube, but there's many brothers out there. They're coming from, and sisters as well.
Bashir, you chopped up with Bashir.
Bashir as well. Yeah, he's back here.
Yeah, he's around, Bashir.
So, you got many brothers who, they just, subhanAllah, this changed their life. Islam, only Islam can have that full change, So, bro, I want to speak a bit about after Islam. You become Muslim. You was doing a Roadside to Islam with Abu Bakr. That's where I started watching your videos early on, doing lots of lectures, touring the UK and different places. And also now, you're in Resol. It's one of your projects. You've got projects in Uganda as well.
Alhamdulillah.
And so tell us a bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so obviously since embracing Islam, we had that passion. We wanted to get people from our background to become Muslim. Like we saw a lot of lectures online, but it was like, it's not for us. And you know that thing that happens when you become Muslim, your whole vocabulary changes. All of a sudden, you're speaking like the English translated Quran. You know what I'm saying? You're speaking like that because that's all you're reading. You're like, verily, today, what it is. And you're like, this is not really us. So we're thinking, these students of knowledge, you come from where we come from, but you're not talking like us. And one of the things that I realized when, you know, the Prophet Muhammad used to send the Sahaba, he used to always make it clear that understand the language of the people. And I remember I was listening to a talk by Sheikh Abdul Salam, and he said, when we mean the language, it's not that they don't know English or Arabic or whatever the language was of the people. It's like understand what they mean when they say, yeah, that's sick. Because sick in that environment means it's cool, it's good. So understand the nuances. So once you understand it, you can deliver the message in the best fashion. So we didn't have something that was speaking the street English, the English that we understood. So it was going over our head a lot of the time, the Dawa. So we said we just need to do something which the man them can just take in for 3 or 4 minutes and say, you know what, them lot are talking sense, man. It's real. And I feel like that was a massive changing point in Dawa and calling our young people back to the religion of Islam, and also those who are non-Muslim. It's just that sadly, once a door opens, you can't control what runs through it. And now we've got to a point where YouTube has just gone crazy.
Yeah. But you guys were doing that like before people were doing YouTube.
Yeah.
You
Before
know,
it was called to
Roadside
YouTube.
to Islam all over the world.
Yeah, yeah.
It's affected many people.
Yeah.
Because people have the same story. People are from similar backgrounds, they've
100%.
similar experiences.
Yeah.
And also people who come from different backgrounds, they can't visualize what their life's going to look like.
Yeah.
And if they can do it. But when they see other people making that change and being successful as well.
100%. And I think that's what's important. It's very important to understand, and also that, you know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you that amana, that trust, and allows you to convey something that touches the people's heart, to understand the heaviness of what that brings with it, you know what I'm trying to say? And that's why I feel like for me, and I always say to Abu Bakr, is that when I conversate with Allah, a lot of the things that I conversate with Allah is that don't allow me to fall and embarrass your religion, because there's a lot of eyes on me. So yes, if I fall and I embarrass myself, that's one thing, Allah. That's just me. But for the sake of your religion, which I uphold to the most, is that I know I represent you, whether I like to or not. And if I fall, it's like, wow, my man that left the music thing and got on D. Now look at him, he's back out there, he's rapping, he's on stage. It's long. I never wanted that to be me. And we've seen it. We've seen our peers that we've grown with, after 10, 15 years, do a U-turn and go right back. And
we were just saying that before we set the cameras up. The importance of having a project.
Yeah.
Not just to help, but for ourselves.
Yes.
Like I was saying, if I wasn't doing Dawa,
Yes.
my iman wouldn't be as high. You know, the fact that daily I've got a mission, I've got a project, I've got a plan what I'm doing, trying to help people. It helps me.
100%. And I think that so many people don't understand that, and sadly sometimes it's also the closest people around us. So it could be our wives, our children, our family members. They're not getting the importance of what it means to you. See this man that you love and adhere and everything that he means to you, he is who he is because he gets up every morning and he makes that happen. If you try to limit him from that and take that away from him, he's no longer going to be that man that you know, upholds this family and that you love and all of those things. So sometimes it don't just affect people out and wide, or just you personally, even those around you. And I feel like people in our situation, sometimes that's why it's important that we have these conversations and we're able to make phone calls and talk. But sometimes, like they say, it's lonely at the top and it's crowded at the bottom. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And when you're trying to rise or raise yourself within your community and the people that you're trying to do, it can be difficult, it can be lonely, but I always say to myself, I'd rather be lonely here and just only have Allah as my noise and what's around me than be crowded in that bottom where everyone's just trying to chase money and in this rat race, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. So my projects now, as you asked before, is just that, you know, after Roadside to Islam, I think me and Abu Bakr got to a certain age where we felt like we're getting a bit too old for that type of Dawa, and we felt like the disconnect between us and the young people was getting bigger and bigger, because yes, we were telling you about a life that we lived and you can relate to it and people can still relate to it till now, but there was a new generation who were growing up who were like, who's my man though? I don't know him, because now our youngers were getting to that age. So we always thought that we were going to pass on the baton.
Now you're just an uncle.
Now I'm an uncle, you know what I'm saying? That's my son's, my son's 15 years old, so like now I'm an uncle, and I thought to myself, we always thought that there'll be a next generation that will come up that we could just pass the baton to and they will carry on, but sadly there wasn't that group of young people who had the same passion and zeal to do such a project. And even within our age bracket, there still isn't a lot of brothers who have the passion and zeal to do what we do. So it's not easy to expect another group of young people to come. But then the other guys came out that we know today who are out there, who do the stuff, and they're trying and they do it in different ways, and it's a different type of dawah to young people. But again, I don't think it's Roadside to Islam. I haven't seen anything come and fill the void of Roadside to Islam. I've seen people from other communities who talk to young people and it helps them, but this gap of people who are really living this life, because Roadside to Islam will have people who are really gangbanging, they'll come to Roadside to Islam events with guns on them. Like, man will come to the event with a strap and say, I come to hear what you have to say, but I'm not gonna get caught lacking. That's not happening today in these events, because these were the type of people that we were trying to help change their lives. It wasn't the people on the edge, it was the people that was right in the center of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, people come to Roadside to Islam events, boyfriend and girlfriend, and at the end, Abu Hanif, we're calling them up, the brothers, they want you to do a nikah. They want everyone to witness it. Like, people are getting married at the event. Say, no, we were doing this thing, it's long, it's haram, you know what I'm saying? We both reverted, we want to get married. Like, things were changing. Like, it was different. It was different.
SubhanAllah. You know what? Just speaking to a brother a couple of days ago. You know, Abu Taymiyyah. He did a lecture in Birmingham, right? And the place stunk of weed. And some of the uncles are complaining. But that's a successful lecture.
That's a successful lecture.
Think about the people who are coming. Hearing the message.
That
you
is
know
a
what I mean?
successful
It's like,
lecture,
SubhanAllah.
And
like,
that's what it is.
That's what you want, right? You want to try and reach the people who need the dawah. You don't want to preach to the choir.
No, you don't. And that's what it's about. And I feel like even this is why now you find me at Resole, because I felt like a lot of the charity we do is always preaching to the choir. It's always helping helping Muslims. And yes, that's first and foremost, but I always understand about the rights of the neighbour and the neighbour that's next to you and helping those around us. And I always say to myself, as a non-Muslim, I can appreciate that a lot of Muslims, like when non-Muslims do things, it's to support everyone. So when a non-Muslim opens up an alcohol clinic to get people off alcohol, it's not just for non-Muslims, it's for everyone that's addicted to alcohol, they can come through. But I feel to myself, where are these organisations that are just for humanity, that example, Muslims don't drink, that's our mantra, we don't drink alcohol, it's haram. We should be the leading clinics of rehab to helping people quit alcohol. So when all this hype is on TV about terrorism and Muslims this, we should have a load of non-Muslims saying they're talking rubbish. I remember Abdullah got my son off that alcohol, mate, when he was blah, blah, blah. I remember like Mustafa and that, they helped us. I remember when he was strung on alcohol, we thought he couldn't come back. They went to that rehab. Yeah, it was run by Muslims. Because we have that interaction, they can say that. And I feel like that's why for me, Resole had to deal with the community here in the UK. So like when I'm turning up certain times to outreaches and I'm wearing phobes and I'm talking to the homeless community who are 90% British, we have that banter. Sometimes they'll see me because a lot of them have spent time in prison. They'll be, Assalamu alaikum. And I was like, hello, what's going on? Walaikum salam. It's like, yeah, when I was in prison, there was a lot of good Muslims in there, man. Good people, blah, blah. Like, it's nice that you're coming to help us. And then I'm meeting homeless Muslims who are saying, bro, I love what you're doing with the shoes and I needed them. It's important, but do you think next time you can bring me a halal meal? Because a lot of these food kitchens that help us, it's all, like, none of it's halal. And sometimes I find it to eat from there and I'm thinking, Allahu Akbar, I never even thought about that.
But you know what,
you know what I'm saying?
This is for the Africans now in Africa. They don't realise. There's people walking on the streets of London with no shoes, bro.
With no shoes. They'll say you're lying.
They'll
say you're lying.
It's crazy. They can't
even people sleeping on the streets in London, they'll say you're lying. Homeless in the UK, no, it's impossible. That's what they're saying.
Like zombies.
Yes.
People drugged out. Just cracked up. Literally just. I just walked past a woman before she was like this. And I say to you, this is crazy.
And I say that the Western phenomenon of the level of trauma that you face being in the West, it's difficult. They all have different stories to why they've ended up on substances to forget their lives. Difficult stories.
At the end of the day, that's someone's daughter, that's
someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's father, and it's like why they've got to that level. A lot of homeless men it all started with the divorce of their wife, losing their home, losing business, losing a job, feeling embarrassed. The amount of men I've met who, because of the end of their marriage, have ended up homeless and drinking, it's unbelievable. And then you just think to yourself, this is not the story we're told about a homeless person. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And we've seen it as Muslims, and we've seen brothers who've gone through divorces, and some of them have never been the same. As much as we've said, but they've had that community.
Especially brothers who are not in touch with their children and stuff like that. Can mess with your head.
Mess your head. They're not in touch with their children. You know, their wives disappeared. They got remarried. They've left the country. They're in the country. No one hears from them. You know, they're going to the communities, the imams. They're not able to get the help, and they're just thinking, oh, like, I'm Muslim. Why am I going through this? And they still have this network of people who try to help. How about those who don't have anything, just dealing with the courts and that type of system? It's difficult. There's a lot, and it's vice versa as well. There's a lot of women who've just come from abusive relationship from their parents to their partners to then it just continues and continues, and then they just end up being out on the street, and you just think to yourself, people are traumatized for many different reasons, but they all deserve something from us, a give back. And for me, when I started Reso, I had a conversation, because when I started Reso, I went out to Gambia and I was working on a spot project with Abu Bakr, and then it increased my iman and raised it so high. I wanted to continue that same feeling when I got back to the UK, and I was thinking, what can I do here to help people? So the most obvious thing to me was homelessness. Came across a few homeless people, and I said, what is it that you need on a day-to-day basis? I know you get food a lot and clothing. There's not a lot that I can do for you, but if I could help you now, like on this second, what can I do? The guy's like, I need a pair of shoes, look at this. They've got holes in it, it's been raining. If you can give me a pair of shoes, I'll be happy. And I was like, okay, cool, I got that for you, and I gave it to him. He goes, if you got another pair, my mate needs one. Then I was like, okay, something's going on here. So I gave him a pair. Then I said to myself, you know what, I've got a pair of shoes at home, I don't really wear them. Let me keep some in the car. If I see some homeless people, I can offer them. That's what I did, it grew. You know what I mean? And then from there, we're here, to be honest. That's
now you've got all sorts of big brands like Nike, Puma, others contacting you.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
They want a piece of this.
Yeah, they do.
They see it, but they don't know how to.
No, they don't understand the logistics. They don't know how to get the shoes to the right people. So we work with, you know, our closest partners are like Foot Locker, Axel Arigato, who send us in a lot of shoes, BSTN, German brand that just opened up here in Brixton, big sportswear store. Then we work independently, like with Nike, Adidas. We've done things with Crep Protect, Puma. But I feel like, yeah, the logistics in terms of what we do is another thing, because sometimes people think it's as easy as just getting shoes and then people come for them, but it's also knowing who needs it. So we work with local authority for kids on free school meals. We work with the probation service, people being released out of prison. We work with local police for young people who are arrested and their clothes and shoes are taken for evidence and they might need a pair of shoes. Then we work with the homeless community who self-refer, and we do outreaches by going into the city. We work with unaccompanied minors who come into the country across the border without adult supervision, and then they're left in the hands of the state, but they're not eligible to state funding, so then charities help them, and they're running scarce, so they ask us for footwear. So we're dealing with an array of different individuals who need footwear within the space that we're working in, and it's difficult, and that's what we've come to learn.
MashaAllah. And now you're also going to be doing some projects in
Uganda, yeah. So with the project in Uganda, for me now, obviously last year I went back and we built a water well after fundraising in Ramadan, alhamdulillah, which was good. It was my first insight to how things are working over there in terms of what is possible. So then when I left there, I was gassed, and I wanted to do something with one of the orphanages that we met there, which was Masjid Al-Hidayah, that had an orphanage next to it. But like, you know, Africa being Africa and having issues with land ownership, who owns the land, can you build on it, can you even refurbish, and are the people going to accept it, and are they going to maintain what you do for it? And for us here, being in the West, it's not just as easy as taking people's money. We know there's an amana with it. It's like sometimes being the middleman is great, but then sometimes you think, hold on, I can be accountable for all of this on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Do I want to be doing something that I don't even know that it's still going to be here in a couple months' time? So then an opportunity came where in a shopping district in Tinder Market, my mum owned a shop, or her sister did, and she bought it off her. And then there were people in there that were renting it, and it weren't bringing. It doesn't bring in a lot of money, maybe £100 a month. And it's like the people in there were selling alcohol. So I went to visit the shop just to see what we own in Africa. And I said, Mum, you know that they sell alcohol in that shop? She said, I didn't even know. They were renting it from my sister before, so when I purchased it, they just carried on renting. I was like, how much is the rent? She's like, £100. I was like, okay, how much did you pay for it? It's about 4K. I was like, how about if I buy it off you and turn it into something? So like, turn it into what? I said, it doesn't matter, you're getting £100 a month. You're not doing much with it. So she accepted, got it off Mum, and now the plan is to turn it into a place of learning and a musalla for the marketplace, for the people to be able to pray and to have young kids come there and memorize Quran. And for me, it's not about how big it is, it's about the impact it can have. So we want it to be small, solid, fresh, a place where like you're like it's buzzing outside, and then you step in and it's just sakina, it's calm, it's peaceful, it's quiet. So by Allah's permission, inshallah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there, inshallah.
Let's sort this Ramadan, inshallah. We'll put the links in the comments and in the description, you know, so everyone can support the project. We're going to get it off the ground,
because that's what we're doing here for, man. I think us being here in the West, a lot of the time we can create good opportunities for people that want to give, and then also to change people's lives by actually being out there and getting in. I think that's one thing Islam has done for me, whether it's through resale or projects like this. It's allowed me to know that sometimes it's not just all on your shoulders. You have a community. Like when I started this and I had about 10, 15 pairs of trainers. I never thought I'd get to a point we got over 1,000 pairs of trainers. We've distributed in the last 2 years over 20,000 pairs, over 2.1 million worth of shoes, you know, given out into the community. And it's like, I didn't think that I would get to that. So sometimes I think like, I asked Allah, as we all do, for health, iman and wealth, and being a millionaire is something that everybody would appreciate to give back. And I think, but Allah's given me over £2 million worth of footwear that I've given back out.
MashaAllah.
So Allah's turned me into a millionaire, and I didn't even know it.
And a lot of that would have been wasted.
Yeah, because of it.
Threw away, locked in a cupboard, forgot about.
100%.
MashaAllah.
So yeah, I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful for the community, the support, the fact that we can impact, especially I say again, like the non-Muslims. I think for me, being in this sneaker world where we're dealing with massive brands like Nike and Adidas and things like that, it's very easy to go back into being shy about being Muslim. But as you know, a lot of us reverts, we embrace the fact that we're Muslim. Like, my name isn't Moosa on my passport. I don't have to go into meetings as Moosa. I can go into there as Michael, which is my birth name, and just be all like politically correct, if that's what you want to be, and just be like, okay, Michael, the founder of Resale. Go to hell, bro. I ain't got time for all of that. My name is Moosa. I'm a Muslim. I started this organization because Islam teaches us to give charity, and charity is a way of life for us. And then it opens up that bigger conversation in who I am and what I practice and my faith. I don't have to go out there and have it on my head, but it's always open.
That's what I mean. You got this place. You got all the trainers here, and you just got Mecca playing, you know, in the background.
That's what we do.
It's like an obviously Muslim institute. You know, and,
because for us, it's Muslim led. You know what I'm saying? I always like to know people that sometimes your organisation doesn't have to scream Islam, but it's always got who's the owner, who leads it. It's a Muslim led organisation. Resale is an organisation that supports anyone from any walk of life, but it is led by a group of Muslims.
Jazakallah khair, bro. I'm proud of you, man.
I appreciate the work. Like I always say, when I see your videos come up and I see the work you're doing, it increases me to go higher. Brothers like you, Abu Bakr, Muslim Bilal, you know, there's a few brothers within our generation of brothers who embrace Islam, Massacre. Whenever I see brothers doing good things, it just makes me say, yeah, man, we got to keep on doing this, because we came on this journey together, and just the same, whenever I see brothers from our era who are no longer practicing, no longer with their families, it hurts, and it kind of decreases your iman, like, oh man, subhanallah, you know what I'm saying? It kind of shocks you, like you don't want to see that, you know what I'm saying? You want good for brothers. So whenever I see brothers doing what they're doing, and I always say, without brothers like yourself, Abu Bakr, and the names that I mentioned before, then they wouldn't be a resale, because it gives me the ideas, I need to go more, like I need to do this. It's not about being where they are, doing what they're doing, but staying in your own lane and also creating that community of reverts and brothers who are giving back, trying to make a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Inshallah. I hope we can work together more in Uganda,
inshallah.
specifically.
Definitely. We haven't been there at the same time together. That's what we need to first do. Just roll through. That's what we first need to do, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء